Okay, I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot. Welcome to the Awake and Aware London conference, and thank you all for coming. Can we get another big hand and a welcome to Harald Kautz? Okay, and Harald, I'm just going to give you the mic and let you start off, and I'm going to close my computer so there's no distraction here, and thank you for, we will have drinks in the back, juices and coffee, it looks like, well, juices and water, let's say, and then we will have lunch break at 12:30, so all things being equal. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, London. I never precisely plan my lectures. It's more like looking into the audience and trying to get a feeling for what is needed. So, as far as I know, there was also no title to this lecture, just my name. And this is something lucky because I have the feeling that I might do something special today. Something that is not yet online. Whoever is interested in the old topics like transhumanism, chemtrails, black magic, black goo, scalar wave physics, all the scientific parts, I'm going to skip on them today. Just looking into the eyes of the audience, I think this is a very good decision. And for the moment, I can see two things I really would like to share. And maybe as a pre-story, I've been doing hardcore science till maybe 2 years ago. Hardcore in the sense that even the professors were not able to understand what actually I was doing. And then I pulled back, went into retreat and started to work on the morphogenetic fields. Exploring them and finding ways to bring healing and cure to humanity on this level. Traveling morphogenetics is basically the same work shamans do. Going into this astral realm and taking care of whatever you find over there. Like lost souls or demons or archangels or black magic installations. Mainly emotional patterns created by humanity. Like if you have a city one day prior to civil war, if you go to the collective field the day before, you will find all this anger and distress and heavy emotions. And if you know how to do it, you can plug in, extract these emotions, let them disappear into peaceful realms, and then the next day will be a peaceful day as well. This is basically what working within the morphogenetics is about. And I went there with my research because I realized that the transhumanistic technologies distributed by chemtrailing, that are airborne, that are within our bodies, actually are the hardware side of something that is the black magic agenda on software side. These little nanobots we breathe in that self-assemble in our body are carrying demons, are administrated by demons, are basically hosting energetic structures that intend to turn us into biorobots. This is what actually is happening. This is an ugly part. It's all online. Whoever is interested can just check my name and get the lectures. The best ones, I think, were done by Miles Johnson as a basis conference, filming and 3 interviews to go more into details. And what I had to realize is that actually the solution to this might be on the software side. This was the reason why I pulled back from the stages, pulled back from let's say, Berlin street life, went to a rather quiet place to develop the abilities to sense and travel this software side, also known as astral realm, also known as whatever. Some people have experience in this field. And while doing this, I learned a lot of stuff. Some of it is not like scientifically proven. I met certain people, we exchanged stories. Some of the knowledge is from previous life experiences from myself and other people. But it was like jigsaw puzzling, putting a story together. And this is the first part I would like to share today. It's like the history of humanity out of this view of being in the fields. And the second thing is something that I want to share because I went through parts of this or tried to do it. This is, as an individual, understanding where we are, what shit we drove ourselves into, finding and going a path to get out of it again. This is possible. This is doable for everyone who decides to do it. And I've been experimenting with these techniques, and I want to share just a little number of very simple techniques to self-empower yourself into full self-responsibility, becoming 100% aware being with no subconsciousness. And if you want so, being 100% empathic with the world around you. This is hell at the moment. But from my point of view, it is the only thing that can save this planet. And this you will understand when you heard the story, where we're coming from and where we got into. So these are the two core things, like the story, how we got into it, and the way to get out again, I want to deliver today. And if there's time left, we can either go into question and answers, or I thought about sharing a little bit about the impressions I had from Great Britain on field level. Because if you live in a field, you hardly realize what you're living in because you get used to the vibrations. And me, as somebody coming from a standalone farm in the middle of nowhere, I had pretty strong sensations coming into your fields. And I could describe some of it. So we will see how much time will be left, and if it rather feels like questions or rather feels like sharing this.
Can you hold it the mic a little further away?
Okay.
It's very
Better now?
strong mic.
Better now, okay.
Thank you.
I'm starting with a big picture because we're still struggling among each other whether Darwin was right or the Bible is right. And actually both are. So I'm trying to give you the very big picture of what biology and creation is about, just as a starting point to position ourselves. I'm coming from 5D physics. You know, normal people live in 3D with one timeline, and once you understood life force, the concept of life force or scalar potential, you realize that actually we're living in a higher dimensional thing with layered space-time sheets and the possibility to ascend by hiring your vibration, you say as a spiritual being, or by hiring scalar potential. This is what you would say as a physicist. So this is a 4D, and if you add kind of the concept of time, you realize that you have different possible timelines in this 4D, building the entire 5D concept as a standing picture. And there's not only one timeline. The concept of time is different than what we perceive. The concept of time is, on one hand, you have this time matter is going through that is linear, but you have a second time structure that is circular, that is allowing shortcuts between same points of cycles. And these cycles are multi-frequent, going from kind of 10,000s of years to nanoseconds. And the nanoseconds is what is building up matter, and the long range circular structures are building up, repeating history and stuff like this. So this is kind of the time concept, and within this circular motion on field level, you're not fixed to now. It is possible for a being to travel into the past and into the future and create loops of its own. Like you have the overall loops created by this resonance points over the time within same points of cycles, but you also can create as a being your own loops and change things. This is why future is not fixed. This is why we create our future, because we have the ability to connect to these dots in the past and in the future, to extract information and introduce information. So this is kind of the overall concept in physics. I'm not doing this in details because it would take hours, just for you to link to it if you're interested to look into it, that you have kind of a hook you can go from. And now within this 5D reality, we have two different types of biology. One is the created being that first exists on astral level as an astral being that comes into an existing biosphere and materializes a body. Normally, if a race like ours is created, an angel comes and materializes himself as the first human. This is why Lucifer and Adam are one and the same person. You can read this from Vedic scripts. You find for Lucifer, you find two translations in Vedic language. One is a male genetic prototype, which is identical with Adam. And the other one is Lucifer, the one who brings the light to our race, brings us into existence. So this is how a species is created as a creational act. And at the same, not at the same time, within this 5D realm, our genetic blueprint is projected into the past by these connecting points of same point in cycles. And within this past, aspects of ourselves are forming the biology of this planet. This is why the blueprint of the first simple animal have already like characteristics of our biology, like crossing throat pipes to make it possible to talk. You wouldn't accept that from a crab being evolved like 800 million years ago, but they already have this ability to later speak. So you can see that basically the concept is coming from the time when the first angel created the first human, but the blueprint, the genetic blueprint, is projected into the past, and the biosphere is already created to be there at the point in the timeline when the real creation starts. So this is how biology is forming within our reality or creation. And basically something else happens whenever an angel starts a race. It is like everything to follow is part of him dreaming. This is what we call the matrix. This is something that concerns consciousness. It's not the matter. The matter follows. Consciousness is there first. And we are kind of all embedded within the consciousness of the angel that created us. And this is what we experience as a matrix. So this is just, the theater, the background of where we are in. And from there the story starts to evolve. And the story is that basically these realities, these inhabitation of planets is just made for us to learn. And the way we do learn as beings, this is our design, is trial and error. We are allowed to make mistakes and learn from them, because this is faster evolution than knowing exactly what is right. Other races, earlier races, just exactly know what to do, and they just follow this concept and have no other choice. We do have a choice. We do make mistakes. And we learn from these mistakes faster than those old races. New concept of creation. Perfect one. In a way perfect, in a different way very unperfect, because of the ability to make mistakes. And the game we are playing to kind of utilize these possibilities is the game you might call fear or love. We always, whenever we come to a decision with its possibilities to choose, It is between fear and love. I can choose love, and I'm going to go the hard way. And this hard way is going to make me higher in vibration, going to add scalar potential to my physics, going to make me grow. And I can choose for fear, and this is going to lower my vibration. And it's going to bring me towards hell. Not because it's bad, because this is how we do learn. And this is repeated, these questions are repeated over and over again until we learn to decide for love. Out of our own will. This is the overall concept. Now, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know where. Something must have happened within the angelic agenda. Observing humans choosing fear over and over and over again. Going lower in vibration, lower in vibration, lower in vibration, turning this planet into hell. And this was back in a time when they were kind of guiding these games, still offering the choice of evil, but realizing that we are always choosing evil. And this must have drove them mad, these angels. Like loving their species they are guarding, realizing they're not doing it, they're failing over and over again. So what can we do about it? And this is what came prior to this event that we call now the falling of the angels. Because they turned against the creation, they turned against this concept that was meant to make us grow, and decided for a third concept, which is control. Just controlling everybody to maintain the status, to make sure we don't fall further. And this was the fall of the angels themselves. And over the time, once disconnecting from this divine principle, they started to forget who they are. They started to forget what they came from. And just by maintaining control as a most important thing to do out of their view, they became even crueler than we would have become as humans. And they started to run this biosphere, not on love, but first on this moment of death, when a being is emitting loads of biophotons, releasing his life force to the realms. This is what fire and blood sacrifice was about in the old days, when we had all these kinds of stupid gods around who demanded sacrifice from humans. This was kind of extracting the energy these fallen angels needed to maintain their power. So they went by fire and blood sacrifice. We still do this today. If you look at mad cow disease, some 30 years ago, we burned all these cows in fire sacrifice. This is still black magic agenda and the same ritual as thousands of years ago. But this was not enough to do to maintain the power. So they added a second technique, running a biosphere on torture energies. Torturing animals, what we call farming today, animal farming. And utilizing this torture energy to guide us. To exactly put kind of by accumulating this feeling within the astral realm and connecting this torture feeling to exactly the areas where they don't want us to go to. So if somebody says, I'm ascending, he will immediately bump into torture energy and say, no, I'm not ascending. This is how our position is fixed. This is how the system is controlling everybody. And this is utilized in politics. Tory tool of torture energy is not working at a certain point. So actually this is what is out there within the astral realms, utilized by those who serve the black agenda to rule this planet. And the black agenda actually is the agenda driven by the angels that were supposed to guide and guard us. On one hand, there's nothing wrong about it, it's their job. On the other hand, there's a lot of things wrong about it because they lost track of everything. Now within this angelic realm we have two characters. We have Lucifer, that is our own planet leading angel, and we have Satan, who came from a planet that self-destructed before, under the guidance of this control agenda, because control leads to self-destruction. And he's here as a guest. And he messed up everything because he's completely in splits. Satan is not a single aware being anymore. He dissolved into consciousness fields, into being splits, like the fairy tale of the Ice Queen with a broken mirror that is poisoning our brains. I remember precisely because I had a satanic split within my brain as well. And I very well remember how it felt like removing it at a certain point. Getting rid of this voice that is always giving you evil advice in spoken words. And so basically there are two angels that do have influence, and Satan fell much earlier than Lucifer. Lucifer at a certain point just was tempted to follow this control concept as Adam, when he was incarnated as Adam. And this is what we call the deterioration from paradise. So now we have a kind of grab to the entire story happening. Now we are entering the position we are in now. Looking at the deterioration of paradise, this is coming from past life experience of various people. Actually, it was a situation where Atlantis and Lemuria were the two parts of this planet. Atlantis inhabited by refugees from self-destructed planets, being attached to these fallen angels' agendas, satanic agendas, practicing black magic, which is high-tech. Back then, it was not split into two concepts. The split is only done today to hide the black magic part. But actually, high-tech is black magic. It is one and the same concept. So Atlantis was high-tech at that time, and it was into satanic rituals and black magic control. And Lemuria still was the way humanity should be like, still in divine order, learning slowly, just divine order in a way. And at that time, the Atlantean high priests were guided by the entities we call archons today, were guided to open a stargate and introduce certain things into this planet. And what they brought was a meteorite swarm carrying black goo. Black goo, I will not explain in detail, it is the substance carrying a planetary consciousness as a quantum computer. It's within the ley line systems of planets. So they brought black goo from a planet that had this trauma signature of self-destruction. And this black goo kind of acts like a consciousness mirror to the biosphere. So this biosphere, by being hit with these meteorites, reconnected to a traumatized planetary consciousness that was not from this planet but from another one. Doing what a trauma does, making you disconnect from the collective consciousness, making you disconnect from each other, because empathy suddenly is extremely painful, too painful to stand. This is what we call the deterioration from paradise. There was a second thing that was brought in. This is what we know as the arcs. One is very well known, the Ark of the Covenant. There's an Irish Ark as well. There's the Ark of Gabriel. And there's one that is not called an Ark, but it's called the Box of the Pandora. If you check the wood type, the blood plating, and the precise measures of the box, it's the same. And these four known boxes basically contained the biophotonics of the same self-destructive planet. Huge amounts of bioenergy stored in a crystal. This crystal has a shape you might describe as B tetraedral, like a David star, but in 3D. Two pyramids, one with a tip down, one with a tip up, crossing each other in a David staff-like form. And we have replicas of these crystals. They do exactly this. They take in biological energy and store it as scalar potential. The guy who was building this crystal, he made his house disappear, taking in so much energy that he created a kind of wormhole. And the post was not delivered because his home was not there at that point. So this concept, we know about it, that it does work. So this is what is inside these boxes. And if you open them and introduce this biophoton energy into the ley lines, this is what is called the opening of a box of a Pandora. And this happened as well. So the two incidents, introducing alien black goo and opening the box of the Pandora, completely cut us off our collective consciousness by being too painful to feel and tap into. And what we created instead was our free will. This is not something we achieved or something great that we can be proud of. This is a hopeless gesture that comes up when you don't feel what is right. Then it jumps from heart and stomach to brain, and this poor instrument, this tool we have for tactics to solve little daily problems, starts to make decisions because we lost the feeling where to go to, where we belong to. We lost the feeling for what can we do without harming others. Because when you're in the state of empathy, you are not able to do anything that harms because you suffer as much as everybody else. So we lost this, and instead we got our brain getting better and better and more trained, growing skulls, to replace something that actually was the absolute divine and better concept, but we lost it because of this biblical event. And this is where we are now today. If you, let's say, healed yourself from this in a certain way, becoming empathic again, full-scale empathy, unconditional, feeling everything that is around you. First, life becomes a nightmare, because you start to feel everything that nobody else is feeling. You know, you go to the supermarket, turn your back to this place where the dead animals are sold, and it is just killing you. Taking in not only the death, but the torture energy. Just to give you an example what it means not to be able to cut off from this. I cannot even talk about it. And actually this is the only way to go back. We will stop messing up our planet when we consciously and out of free will return exactly on this path and become empathic again. This is the only solution available. And we need to do this out of free will, although it is uncomfortable. Okay, now let's have a look at our daily life, just to give you a picture how it looks like from this perspective. It's not funny, although it is weird sometimes. Like, we are from biology vegetarians. We have long lower intestines, like all vegetarian beings have. We have this ability to digest meat in case of starvation. Before we die, we can take in other animals. It takes 48 hours to digest them, which is okay then. But this is kind of a security program that should be utilized only in very, very weird situations. The eating of meat actually comes from blood and fire sacrifice. So what we do morning, midday, evening is the extension of black magic rituals. Up to now, these are only words I've been telling you. If you go to the streets and see people doing this in restaurants all of them, having their burgers. And you connect yourself to the actual thing that it is from history and also from the energetics. Life becomes really weird. It's like waking up on a planet that is not yours, if you see what people are doing. Especially because these animals are full of torture energies, the ones we eat, because they are kept that way. And this is on purpose to connect us, to bring the torture energy as an anchor into ourselves, to make us resonate with their reservoirs of torture energy they are keeping and holding. So this is kind of out of free will, we open our physical body to the tool to be ruled by doing this. If you go to other places, like I've been touched most by British school attendees, like all the people on the streets, in their dressed up like young adults, feeling completely tortured going there. I've been staying for the week in High Elms Manor. There are, 3-4 different schools, and saw these. I had to get out of the place in the morning hours because I was privately but on school territory, and I haven't had an admission to stay there over there, so I always walked past the pupils coming there and getting back, and none of them looked happy. They were all like completely depressed, like prisoners being pulled to the torture cell. And this is what we export to the third world, thinking this is education, bringing people somewhere. This is Pavlov. If you go into a school with open emotions, you will find that this bell ringing 12 times a day is a Pavlov technique for mind control. Now you're free, now you're not free. Now you're free, now you're not free. Now you're free, now you're not free. And if you hear this for 12 years, you are 100% conditioned to accept the condition of being not free. This is something we are doing to ourselves without noticing. And this is something that on one hand seems to be normal, but once you start tapping into the emotional fields, it's madness. It's madness we do live. We can go further deep down into the basics of our culture. We've got our car, we've got our house, we have salaries and money, everything is normal. It's not. It's not normal. Scarcity is not normal. Scarcity is a concept that is directly created by control. Control is not necessary. It is not the natural way. Scarcity comes from control. The concept of owning things comes from scarcity. And having governments to rule us comes also from this line of once you have property and ownership, you need somebody to guard it. This is all not natural. This is all black magic agenda. And we are devoting our entire life to this black magic agenda. Without that this is a necessity. We are doing this because we're used to doing this, because we grew up like this, and because we don't have the senses to realize what we are doing. And nothing of this is good. This is 100% the path to complete self-destruction of this planet. Like the planets that were infected by this agenda before, completely self-destructed with zero biosphere left. So this is one possible timeline. Our planet is infected by this agenda, and if we don't wake up getting aware of what is happening and turn this around, this is the timeline we're going down. And this is not funny. The other timeline, the other possible timeline is finding enough people to wake up to this, to consciously go the path back to empathy. And 10,000 people is enough to host this possible development within the morphogenetics of the entire humanity. And then it's like, I don't know if you know these experiments with 100 apes, where they had these funny little islands in Japan inhabited by apes, and they just observed the animal, and one of the youngsters found a potato. They all were eating potatoes, and he found it nice to wash the potato in the river stream before eating to get rid of the mud in his mouth. And he did it, and then his brothers and cousins did it as well, learning from him. After like 12 or 14 brothers and cousins had it, the parent generation started doing it. And the moment 100 apes on a single island did the same, suddenly all the animals, all the apes on all islands started to wash their potatoes without visual evidence of the possibility to do so. This is how biology functions. And this is why it is not hopeless that this other timeline will evolve towards a return to paradise. It doesn't need much, it needs 10,000 humans to fully walk down that path. It was funny when before we started, I just talked with one of the guests about how the background fields feel like today, and it is a kind of a knot structure. It is as if the beings present here came here for a purpose. You know, you have these points in actions unfolding that kind of stand for crossing lines, knots, when some things happens that basically are already agreed on much more before. And I very strongly had the feeling that this is one of these events where we have crossing lines, and I am really hopeful that some of the techniques I'm going to share about how returning to paradise will be picked up and distributed by you. I have the feeling that we do have the quality today to have this. Okay, so this is about the history where we do come from. Maybe if there are one or two questions that something I told was not complete or understandable, could be a good moment to throw a question in between before I pick up with the second part. No? Everything? Okay, nice.
When you said about the angelic realms at first, and you said it went to the duality split of experience between the fear and love. Why? Why two? Why fear and not love?
I don't know. This is what happened to me all the time. I always come to these junctions where I actually do not know what to do on mental level. I don't have enough hints where to go, which is the right path. I could follow what everybody else is doing, out of the fear of becoming something weird, like one of these conspiracy theorists. You know, this is feeling uncomfortable. If I say no, I prefer to take the public opinion, I am acting out of fear. If I think of those who I could help by risking the little experiment to think different, I exactly know that I'm going somewhere that is going to be painful to me, but I'm doing this out of love. So this is where it comes down to. Whatever you decide, there is an easy way to find this point of fear or love. And love is always the hard way, and fear is always the easiest way. I don't know who invented this concept. I just know that I experience it over and over again during my life. And I think everybody else does as well.
reference to the angelic progenitors, let's say, that you referred to at the start, where is that in line with off-world races such as Anunnaki and their involvement with us over the centuries?
As far as I got it, I mean, this is not hard evidence, more like talking to many people, getting the average impression. We are one of many races created. Somebody is very playful in this universe, trying this and that. And we seem to be something special because we host this ability to be extremely creational within our spirit, being powerful, that actually our impact onto the astral realm is very high. This is why many other races who do not have these abilities are interested in us and in controlling us to utilize us for their purposes. The agenda, this black magic agenda driven by fallen angels, is older than our planet, and other planets have been fallen before. So in between the races we might see as visitors. There are some who are completely biorobots already because they fell. And my favorite ones are the blue avians, who are completely biorobots, who already self-destroyed their home planet. So most of them are either traveling or incarnating as the Jewish people on this planet, as beings. This is why they never were allowed to have a country of their own, because they have this trauma signature of self-destruction. And you do repeat trauma signatures when you're unconscious. So we kind of meet all kinds of races out there. Assimilated ones, not assimilated ones, friendly ones. I have no clue how many are out there. And I will take care of them when they openly show up. Until then, it's just theory. And the only ones I had to deal with actually were blue avians up to now, that were connected to the Irish Ark, trying to open it on the day when CERN was supposed to start. And they tried to involve me in opening an Ark. So this is why I was in contact with the blue avians for once.
Do you think that the main problem is an interdimensional problem?
Everything is 5D, so everything is interdimensional. It becomes understandable once you understand the higher dimensions.
Yeah.
Still, the problem is 3D, and we need to solve it in 3D. And this is why I'm going into details now.
What worries me is the oppressing side of what's controlling this planet, what's running it. I don't think is interdimensional, is it? I think the cure could be the interdimensional aspect.
No, this is waiting for a savior, because we are mainly 3D.
Yeah.
There are two concepts of interdimensional. I can look at the fields kind of aligning our space-time sheet, which are the astral realms, which you might call interdimensional, but actually it's just a little bit parallel, but still belonging to our realm.
Right.
It's like water, air, and quartz is transparent. Light is a little bit parallel. It's going through, and other things are even less visible than light. We still have eyes to see the light, and we do have senses to see spirits, but not everybody does. So this is kind of still, it's not interdimensional. It's still part of the invisible part of our space-time sheet. And there are problems, there are races that are really interdimensional, that have their own space-time sheets with similar realities, and who learned how to travel from one to another. And they appear here, but they're not the reason, they're not the source of the problem.
So how many races then would you say are controlling what's going on here?
No clue.
Because we're in hell, aren't we? We're like you said,
Yeah. I have no clue.
It can't be just one race that's domineering the whole thing. There's got to be
I don't see a point in going into this, because it all brings me to positions where I have to wait for a solution. I want to be the solution, and I can be the solution as a human only. So I don't give a damn about other races unless they show up and ask me for a favor, and then I say yes or no. So this is kind of the path I want to walk down. Being human, finding solutions and sharing solutions for humans.
Where do you think the Greys fit in?
I'm not going into it.
Okay.
We can make it, maybe later if there's time left, we can talk about interesting topics. But I want to be emotional today because the solution is emotional, not on information level. Maybe one more? And then...
I'd like to ask you whether you consider meat as meat fish and oysters.
I do eat fish from time to time, because as long as it's freely grown and not in chemistry. But only if I do not get ecologically grown food to feed myself with. As long as I have good plant food supply, I don't need fish. Once I'm in Great Britain, I have to have fish, because I'm not able to live on what you eat from the supermarkets and what I get from the restaurants. It has zero nutrition, and this is why you all get sick from this.
And the oysters?
Oysters I wouldn't take because of heavy metal pollution. They take in too much heavy metals. But this is we can make details later. I would like to kind of we make the rest of the questions later, if this is okay. Just for time reasons. Okay, coming to the practical part. What we need to do is wake up to become our higher self, letting go from the person to become our higher self. It is there, it is basically hovering somewhere in space, looking at our personalities, messing up everything, being in dire straits about ourselves, having no possibility to meddle into the thing because we are not listening to our higher selves. We forgot that they exist. We do not hear a single sound of them, and we need to pull them in again to become ourselves. Normally in biology, this happens when we are age 13 or 14. There are lots of rituals still surviving this distortion of biology that are not really functioning anymore, but in natural tribes, a child is put into the middle of the desert for one night when he's age 14, and he comes back as an adult with his full potential and his higher self being within him. This is how nature is supposed to be. Governments like us to be controllable. This is why we are not allowed to grow up anymore. We are all remaining children till our death. This is what they have done to us. And it can be reversed consciously if you know how to do it. This needs decisions. And maybe the most important discovery or thing I was taught during the last year when I was completely in retreat was that we do have the ability to decide. I didn't know about it before. This is completely weird. You grow up as a human, you become 50 or 49 in my case, and nobody told you that you as a human have the ability to make a decision. I didn't know it. I was just letting myself drive myself from here to there, following mind, following emotion, but always following. And the technique to make a decision is very, very simple. The first thing you need to do, and this is maybe the most important part of this lecture, just try to remember the steps. The first thing you need to do is locate yourself. We all have a feeling of ourselves, and this can be located. Most of the people I know would immediately locate themselves within their head. This is kind of where the black magic agenda brought humanity to identify with the mind. And this identification is causing the physical position of this feeling of your own center being here. This is what it feels like. This is where you position yourself when you say, I want to feel myself. Boop, here I am. Another possibility where you might find yourself is hovering outside in the fields. If this is for keeps, you call this autism. If this is for dirty games, you call this bloodliners that spend most of the time outside of the body to be more effective in bribing, torturing, forcing, controlling other people. If it's shamanism, this is where you travel to. You can go there consciously and come back. So we do have the possibility as a being to be outside of ourselves. This should be a controlled state, not controlled, but consciously done travel. Some of the people might find themselves there all the time, which is an indication that they do have some of the psychological problems in the line of ADS, ADHS, Asperger, autism, which is not their fault. It is a physical condition coming from nanobots and mercury and vaccinations and all the other crap, the electrosmog problems. So, but you might find yourself there. And very few people might find themselves here, identified with their heart. Mainly women will. And this is actually the natural state of ourselves. Being identified with your heart, having the ability to think, which means you go up into your head to find a solution, or to think about a tactics to get somewhere faster, better, smoother. But then for decisions normally, decisions that concern other people, you always should go back into your heart to make sure it feels right what you do. This is how we were created. Yeah? With a little tool here and the possibility to do divine work by traveling. And empathy is possible when you locate it in your heart, because from this aspect of physics, the heart is a little black hole. The biophotons are creating a singularity within our heart chakra that is connected to all other singularities in the universe. This is why we are all one. There is only one heart that bumps. This is the rhythm of the universe. And we can connect through our heart with every other being and every higher entity that does exist, because all singularities are connected, because the source of our reality is low dimensional on the surfaces of these singularities. This is how reality evolves, coming from the 2D surface of a singularity, projecting a 3D, building up what we know as our world. So here is the entrance to everything. And now if I want to decide something concerning myself, we can only decide things concerning ourselves. All I need to do is pull myself into my heart and then let my heart speak. This is a voice that appears as if the source of the voice is down here. And the moment you identify with your heart, exactly this happens. Then it sounds as if the voice is coming from here. I'm doing this on purpose now, because when I lecture I tend to be a lot in my head to organize my speak. And now I'm going, and as you can listen, the sound of my voice changes slightly. More volume, more emotion within it, more love within it. Now I'm exactly here. And now I can decide. And you could decide many different things. The first thing that is clever to decide is to become fully conscious. Because the subconsciousness is not something that is there by nature. It is all the crap that is too painful to be felt. This is the correct definition of subconsciousness. And as long as we don't feel ourselves, there's no chance to feel the other one. Because it can only resonate. If we want something to resonate, it needs to be free within ourselves. So as long as I don't feel my own desperation, I will be completely numb for empathy towards a person that is desperate as well. I will not feel his despair because I cannot feel my own despair. This is where this entire fucking concept of projection comes from. Because whatever I do not feel within myself, I fight in the other. As a reflex of self-defense. This is where all the aggression and all the bloodshed comes from. So this is the most important thing to do, is to become fully conscious again. Because then no demon, no politician, no military personnel will have the ability to drive you into bloodshed. This is the first important thing. Become fully conscious. And you can do this simply by deciding. If you have the feeling there's something missing within me, I don't feel my desperation. You go into your heart chakra, make your voice resonate deep down there, and say, I feel my desperation. And this immediately works. There's no way around that. If you manage to get there and you speak out of your heart and you make this decision, the emotion immediately pops up. Out of your unconscious or underconscious into the conscious field of mind. And this is how you heal yourself. And you can do this with all, let's say, stored emotions that you got lost, that got lost within you. One by one. It took me 1 month to get through with my entire lower levels. 1 month of not eating anything, hiding myself in a single room, not seeing a person, not using the phone, not using the computer, not talking to anyone, just working with myself. 4 weeks working with myself from morning till evening. To completely dissolve all these layers. And there's one emotion that reacts a little bit different, and this is fear. Because fear is not a quality of its own in that way. It does exist, yes, but as a stored emotion, it appears like the door. So, one of the weeks I decided now I'm working on all my fears, and I decided in the evening, overnight I want to be confronted, or I will be confronted with the next fear to be dissolved. And normally in morning hours, I woke up scared like shit. Like being unable to move. And the next step then is I enter my fear. Normally people would step back from this emotion, push it away again because it's very uncomfortable, it makes you unable to survive your daily life. This is why most of the people push it away. If you consciously dive into your fear, it's like a door, you cross the door, and then the topic behind opens up to consciousness. And you start to understand actually what you have been afraid for. And normally it's a joke because the fear of the fear is 100 times stronger than the fear actually you've been hiding from. And it's easy, most of them are easy to be dissolved. And after 1 week I realized actually only recent fears come up. There was nothing old left. Just the things I had to deal during my actual life, like working on myself for a year without having income. This might create fear as well of not surviving. When this comes up, it's okay because this is something that is embedded within the moment, within the actual situation of life. And this then is a real, a living emotion that you can keep within you as something to maintain you in a way, then it's nothing bad. But these stored fears are poisonous. Once you finish to clear up, normally what pops up is the ability, this is when the higher self comes in, the ability to look into former life experiences. This automatically comes if you give space to your higher self to reconquer your entire system, which is done by clearing up your underconscious. Then you will have the ability to access former lives, also by deciding. At a certain point, I decided to ask in the evening, what did connect me to my ex-wife? It was a day before we got divorced, officially, formally, so I wanted to kind of close that chapter, and there were still a number of questions open, what connected us, and it works. Your higher self is giving you the answer either in a dream or in a daydream that appears immediately. This is how you can work with yourself until you can say, I am 100% clear, clarified, conscious of myself. And if this state is achieved, you can start to work with others. And this is something that might very quickly become an obsession or something that you just need to do out of love. If you meet people and you decide, I feel you within your heart, you're getting the full impact of all emotional patterns, conscious and subconscious. And then you are a miracle for those people, because you immediately can tell them where their problems are, because you feel what they cannot feel anymore. And this is mostly sad content-wise, because everything we store in us, we store it for a reason. But seeing people prosper when you are able to help them is beautiful. And normally it is enough just to, if there's a stored emotion, to take it in empathically and to express it yourself. And then you become a mirror for the person, and he will immediately recognize himself in you. This is how you heal. This is healing on highest level. Let's say I've been doing this even before this year where I pulled back. I've been doing this on the few topics that I had worked through before. I had worked a lot on child abuse and worked a lot with patients that had this problem during their childhood, female patients. And normally they completely block any aggression within themselves. They are victimized in early childhood. They exactly know if they would have repelled the attempt to be abused, it would have killed them, so there's a lot of fear involved. And the force to protect them, the anger against the perpetrator, is encapsulated like a little stone in the stomach area. This is the first thing you feel when you get empathic with a victimized person or being of this sort. And the first thing you can do is normally take in the pain and cry for the patient. It will give him the feeling of being worth something. This is incredible. It's an incredible technique, purely emotional. And then you can kind of tell him there's a lot of stored anger and put the hand above the belly. Don't touch the belly. It might cause reactions that are heavy in this situation. Just put the hand above the belly and try to connect yourself to this little stone, softening it. And then it's possible to pull this anger into the original size again of completely filling the aura of the human. And then you can explain to the person that actually this anger is there to protect, that it's passive, that it's not destructive, that it's controllable at that point, and that's your friend. And then this victim stops to be a victim for the rest of his life. Because every perpetrator that might come across will just bump into this pacified anger wall and say, oops, I'd rather not. And so just to give you an example how easy it is to ignite others with this ability to dissolve the subconscious part. Can I give a hint on the timeline of this lecture? How much time is left?
I don't have a watch. Anyone have a watch? 17 minutes.
17 minutes to go.
No, no,
20.
yeah.
Okay.
20 minutes.
Okay. Then maybe I'll go 10 minutes into how I perceive London. I did a little bit of it already. But the first thing I did here was going into the collective field, and the dominant emotions are fear, lots of fear, lots of aggression, much stronger than I'm used to it from Berlin, which is aggressive as well. And something I would describe as feeling uncomfortable with yourself. The purest form I really picked up from these pupils going to school. But this continues for a lifetime. That most of the people creating this collective field are actually doing things they don't like to do. And you can kind of hold back and do this for a while, and this, at a certain point, collapses into self-disgust. This is the first impression from the field I got in London. And the second thing I picked up is some kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's like being completely in a dream state. Like nothing of what is happening around actually does have some impact. Maybe to put it in an example, I'm not trying to no, not a good example, sorry. Not taking this one. It's like, maybe put it this way, on the last lecture on Sunday, it was a great success. Everybody was happy with what I had to talk. And afterwards, quite a few from the audience came up to the front, hugging me, saying thank you. And after this gesture of thanking me, everything was like it was before. It was like going out into the garden, there was something offered to eat, and everybody was coughing the sausages with the torture energies inside. And everything I have said was like completely away, gone, like erased from the minds. One lady, the one that was serving, was still kind of talking to me whenever she offered a sausage. Oh no, you're vegetarian. But not a single thought about the other ones, that she actually is offering torture energies to her friends. It was like, yes, this was a frame with a lecture, and now we go back to normal life. And I do not know why people do this. I have no idea why people go to lectures if there's nothing to take home from. Yeah? So maybe I had to think about a film quote. Maybe you recognize it. Don't thank me. There is nothing to thank. It's sad only. Did anyone recognize this one? From Avatar? When the hero is getting into trouble with some wild animals and his future female partner is rescuing him with a bow shot, and he goes to her saying, thank you for rescuing my life, and she just killed an animal and is completely terrified about being forced to kill an animal. And she says exactly this: you don't thank for that. This is sad only. And I would like you to keep this energy I am giving you for yourself, and take it home and integrate it into your lives. However this works, I do not know how busy you are, what you're occupied with, whether you find the space and the time to try to decide things for yourself. I mean, this is up to you. I cannot force anyone. I can only stand here and say, this is sad only, yes, but it is enriching your lives. Because you see more, you feel more. You're leaving this funny, strange matrix, this trickster thing, and you start living within reality. And there's not much beautiful about reality right now. Actually, we're heading towards World War III with big steps. Nobody bothers about these bastards doing this. There might be a complaint in a bar talk with your neighbor, but this is part of the system. Freedom is there to give us the illusion that we have something to decide on. And it needs different things. It needs things like done in Iceland, with the people going to the parliament, throwing these bastards out onto the street. And this is not about violence. What they do is about violence. This is about self-protection. This is about love. This is about going the hard way. Because it's much more comfortable to maintain yourself as a victim. But if you do so, you will end up as a victim until you learned your lesson. And this is the other thing I can state for sure. This is going to continue as long as we solve it. And there's not a third party available that can solve it for us. This is the perpetrator-victim-offender, a perpetrator-victim-savior game. And even the saviors that appear on the screen are part of the game. And they are the worst. Mostly they are the worst. Because they tell the victim that it has no power. I'm going to rescue. I'm coming for rescue. You poor creature need to be rescued. This is the savior. Bullshit. The only way to get out of this is leaving the gaming realm. Stopping to play this game, which means every single position needs to switch from whatever he is or she is into self-responsibility. And this you can do only by waking up. And if we don't wake up, we continue these games. And if we continue these games, we will self-destroy this planet. And on one hand, when I look at the state of matter at the moment, I'm going dire straits because I do not see much happening. Funnily, if I go to the astral realms, if I tap into the not yet created reality, but reality that is already on the way, the bad guy is already lost. So this is a funny position, because still it needs to be done. It needs to be lived through. And in a way it needs a lot of awareness to be able to live through that. But it is definitely doable. If it wouldn't be doable, then the astral realm would be hopeless as well. Then there would be complete control of darkness over there, and they are losing it completely at the moment. And this is kind of why I just want to cheer you all up. Do it now. There's no better moment to wake up than now. Because every single day you wait is going to drive you a little bit further down the road. And the way back is going to be a little bit longer and more painful. And there's no question whether the way back will be walked or not. It will be walked. But everyone has kind of the choice when to start doing this. And the earlier the better for everybody. So it's not like I don't believe that it's an option to say, actually, okay, this is lost. I'm just going to stay quiet and peaceful and decide for fear not to be bothered too much. This is the hard way in this case, because we are going back. For an individual, the hard way to learn, the harder way to learn. But still, don't expect love and light on that path. For the beginning, it is not love and light. You need love and light within yourself to be able to walk it, yes. But it's not the path where you receive love and light. It is the path where you feel the pain first. And maybe the first try you could give it, you have so many beautiful old trees in the vicinity of London. I've seen trees where it needed 4 times both arms to go around it. And they are very much connected to Mother Earth. And once you stand next to such a tree or hug him, then you're very much connected to Mother Earth. It comes automatically. And one thing that is that is extremely easy, effective, and impressing to start with, is go there, hug a tree, and tell Mother Earth, I am feeling your pain, as a decision in your heart. And she needs a lot of relief in this time, at this moment. She is in terrible pain because of what we are doing. And she is carrying our stuff for us at the moment. And she needs people to take over this pain, to be able to forgive. And it is something urgent in a way, to reconnect to her. And it will give you a first full-scale impression of what it means to be able to feel. Because she still does feel. Okay. Maybe the last 10 minutes should be 10 minutes now. We could open for questions again.
So feeling is the most important thing, then, isn't it?
Thinking is kind of giving direction. It is triggering, but the power is always emotional. Yes. Always.
And I think if you stay emotional, I mean, I've been guilty of being too emotional in the past. But I think if you stay emotional, regardless of what field you go into, either a negative or a positive, I mean, we all don't want to go into a negative state, but I think if you actually keep the awareness that you are emotional, then the awareness is always there, isn't it? Always.
You cannot be too emotional.
No, it's not good to be too emotional.
It is. It is good to be full-scale emotional. This is how we are designed to be, full-scale emotional. And if there's something heavy to express, it needs to be expressed.
But it doesn't work. To be too emotional, though, surely it doesn't work
It does work.
in our society.
It does work.
Because you're just considered a
Our-
loner. You're considered an outsider.
Yes.
If you're constantly too
But-
emotional.
Then you decide for fear.
All
if you
so
stop-
you're coming back down then.
If you stop yourself from being emotional because you're afraid you might become an outsider, you decide for fear.
Fear.
Yeah, and this is bad for yourself. And you cannot be too emotional. Of course, everybody needs to somehow make a compromise, because sometimes I feel like screaming from morning till evening. And at a certain point, it is exhausting to do so. But at least you should scream until you balanced yourself. And something else that is very important, we are living on a spectrum of flawed emotions. The joy we know is not joy. The anger we know is not anger. This is part of the matrix emotions.
So what creates that then? That fraudulent type of too much anger or too much...
I'm not sure how
There's got to
much
be something
actually
behind that.
the fraudulent emotions do create. They are somehow, yes, they seem to be working within the matrix field, but they are limited, as I sense it, towards the real reality. Just the important part is, if you think about anger, there is this matrix anger that actually is destructive. It is low vibrant. If you just look at the basic feeling of matrix anger, it is extremely low vibrant and it does hurt people. Just be aware that there is a second type of anger, which I would call holy anger. This is what Jesus did with the money changers in the temple. He was screaming at them, he was turning over their tables out of love. And this is a completely different emotion than the low vibrant anger that basically is there to make us not feel, because it is something you should not do, being low vibrant angry with people, because this is all part of these energy sucking games. We are disconnected from, or most of the people are disconnected from the divine sphere, so they need to feed on others. So this is why all these games appear. And within these game structures, all these fraudulent emotions are used to define the positions of the players. But this is all about stealing from the side, not taking in from above. And once you take in the real anger, the divine anger from above, you're fed with divine energy from above. And what you do actually is healing in a way that the one you scream at, you help him overcome his barriers with this divine energy. So don't be afraid of your own divine anger. It is in place. And it's the same with all the other emotions. There is always the divine type of it. And it makes sense, maybe not exception fear. I haven't seen divine fear. But as I said, there's a little difference to the fear from all the other emotions. And also love. You know, there is this sucking love we all know. Like, I'm undersupplied, love me. Wow. Hate it. Yeah? And there is unconditional love. It does exist. And it is always nourishing and feeding. And there's no game involved in this. And it can be nourishing because the source is sitting above, not in between. If you look at all the social games we are playing, like having a discussion, whoever has the last word keeps the energy. Fuck it. Yeah? This is ugly. This is scarcity. This is energetic scarcity to go into discussions. Questioning is nice. I once had a meeting with a holy man in the Holy Land. I met him first in Sinai, which was funny because he made me stop smoking from 1 second to another. I couldn't breathe in with smoke, just by his presence. And we talked about this and that, and later we met in Jerusalem again, just in front of the city walls. And I was in a discussion with one of these young Christians having this, I know how the world functions on his forehead, this strong beam of convincing everybody to become I don't know what. And we were in a heavy fight verbally, because I'm not the type following these types of funny religions, and I felt like saving him from his madness, and he felt like saving me from my lostness, and we were just struggling over this. And then this guy from Sinai came along and just stood beside us for like 5 minutes, listening to the fight going on, and then he asked 3 questions. What's your name? How old are you? Where do you come from? To the guy. And this entire thing collapsed, went out of his forehead, and he nearly started to cry and started to ask questions himself. A question is hiring vibration. You can put attention to the frequencies of speech. If somebody is talking to you like this, he's taking you with every single word down the road in vibration. And the question actually is going the other way around. It's going from low to high. And if you ask somebody for help, you're hiring his energies. This is all stuff you automatically get aware of once you start to feel what is happening around you. And it's interesting, because many, many things are quite the opposite of what we would think they are. And this is all part of this black magic trickster thing that is waving us into their games, controlling us, keeping us exactly on the spot where we are. And it's not necessary. Nobody needs this crap. We've been going through a cycle, 16,000 years. The cycle is over since 2 years. We have a time window to wake up. This is why it is urgent at the moment. Now it is a time window where we can pull in our higher selves. And if we don't, I'm afraid we're going to be erased. Because this is what happened in the last 4 cycles of 16,000 years. The ones created us coming along, looking if we did it, and we didn't do it back then. This is what we know as the biblical floods, saying, didn't work, sorry, next attempt. And waking up to ourselves is exactly what it needs to be successful this time. And we have a very good chance to be so, because we learned a hard lesson this time, a very hard lesson. And when you do so, when you wake up, you will realize that there's some beauty about the concept of transforming darkness. Especially if you go into former life experiences. You will realize that we all did live through dark lives. This is something that comes as a memory with most of us. I was practicing black magic during former lives. I was a real bad guy. I've been slaughtering little children ritually while having sex orgies. I have full memory of this. I cannot be charged for it because it was past life, but I am responsible as a higher self or as a being that went through those lives and gathered those experiences. And once you do not hesitate to emotionally integrate this into your being as a living memory. This is what I lived, I learned. Going there through this cycle of feeling sorry about it, asking for forgiveness, that normally if you do this from your heart is given. This is what brings you into a state of resolved darkness, dissolved darkness, which is extremely powerful. This is the harvest we are bringing in from 16,000 years of darkness. This is within the divine concept. This is what we ought to be doing right now, getting in the harvest. understanding what we lived through, and even it does not necessarily need former life experience to do so, because normally we've been living through enough darkness during this lifetime, not even realizing it is darkness. Just go there. There's a beautiful film, maybe a good one to start with, Earthlings. Earthlings is showing what we do to animals on this planet. And we are all responsible for this because we were the ones to buy the meat. Yeah. Good example where to start. Watching this film and going into the cycle of, oh God, what have I done? And once you're through this emotionally, it's much better than carrying this within you as living torture energies.
How do you escape that though? Because if we're born into this realm, to this society, and the meat, the idea of meat is there from when we're young, into teenage years, into adult. You know, we all can't be born, obviously, vegetarian. I mean, she's a vegetarian, and I live with her, and it's like chalk and cheese, and she's trying to get me veggie, but I can't because I'm a meat eater, even though I took about a year off. How do you get out of that meat cycle? Because it's the magnitude of the meat is it really is powerful, and if you're, especially if you're male.
Yeah. Okay. Let's.
Did you ever think of visiting slaughterhouse or farm?
I used to work next to a slaughterhouse, and the smell that used to emanate was enough to kind of sort of like put me off. But there's still something within my genetics that just keeps being drawn back to me. But I don't want that, if you know what I mean.
I can 100% tell you, the meat eating is this possibility we take before we starve. And this is one of the reasons why we do eat meat, because of the food we get in the supermarket has zero nutritions. If you compare a banana ecologically grown and a banana from the supermarket, it's 1 to 200 in values of nutritions. So it would need 200 bananas from the supermarket to satisfy you. And nobody eats 200 bananas from the supermarket. This is why we do starve. And then this program jumps in that feels like a meat addiction. If you go and organize yourself ecologically grown food, you eat half of what you used to eat before. You get healthy, you're well nutritioned. The only thing you need to take care of is egg white and protein, so eat a lot of beans in between, or other stuff that has protein and egg white. And then you're fully supplied, and the need for meat disappears after the short period of being addicted to slaughter energies. This is a little bit discipline at the beginning, but it disappears very quickly. Without eating organically grown food, there's no chance to get out without harming yourself, because you will starve on the rest you get in the supermarkets. This is highly poisonous, zero nutritional stuff they are selling to us. And they do this on purpose. And if you do the other thing, like being healthy the way I described, you will not grow fat and you will not grow old. I'm 49. Yeah. And it's easy. It's easy and it's doable. And if it's hard to stay tuned to this, take the emotional road and just feel into what you were supposed to eat.
I mean, I don't want to go down the long road here, but I mean, I'm one of the most, I am full of empathy from start to finish. And she was just saying the other week about, well, you walk down the aisles and you see it and all the rest of it. And we kind of sort of had a mini argument. And you know what I mean? I just eat it. And yet I've got more empathy, I can guarantee, more than anybody in this room. I'll tell you that now. But yet it comes to that point where it's on the shelf and I just block my mind out from knowing how it was slaughtered, knowing about the torture energy you talk.
Yeah, then stop blocking your
It's
empathy.
just that moment. It's that moment.
Yeah.
It's like reading
This
the Daily
is
Mail.
why I said.
Can I just say this?
Yeah.
Sorry. I think we're going over now, and we don't have a whole lot of time for lunch, and in courtesy for everyone. I think you could take this offline, maybe during lunch, have a conversation with whoever is interested. It's an important topic. I need to make an announcement. So could you wrap up with a couple of statements of your own?
Okay, just maybe the last one. This is what I said, unconditional empathy. If I stop being empathic for the meal to satisfy my meat desires, then I'm not unconditionally empathic. Unconditional empathy does not stop anywhere. It goes right through the truth, how uncomfortable it might be. And this is what it needs, actually. Okay, last statement.
Are you done? All right. Thank you so much.